Hello and welcome to this class number 8 of Decoding PSIR through answer writing. As you know, this is a series that has a lecture on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays at 4 p.m. where we try and simplify PSIR optional for you. What we're trying to do here is in each and every class we take up a previous year question, study that topic in detail, try and see what is it that you need to understand about that topic and then try and write these answers. The reason why it is important and significant for you is that in the theory part at least, a lot of questions from PSIR do get repeated. You will see a lot of theory based questions from paper 1 part A being repeated time and time again, and that is why if you understand these topics and understand what to write, it will make your job much easier. I hope by now you have become a part of the Telegram channel. The link is in the description of the video where I share all the PDFs of these classes, and I also hope that you have been taking advantage of other initiatives on this channel. For example, we have a quick revision series for Prelims 2024 running. We also have a mains answer writing initiative that is every single day at 7 p.m. If you have still not hit the subscribe button, please do that right away. It will be very helpful for you and for me as well. Now let's begin today's class and see what is it that we will be answering today. This is the previous year question that we have taken up. Critically examine the neoliberal theory of the state. It's a long question. As you can see, it's a 250 words question. Asked in 2018, it's a 20 mark question. It's a long question, not a short one. Now, neoliberal theory, in order to understand that, you have to first understand the liberal theory of state. We have discussed about liberal theory multiple times in the past as well. Liberal theory in simple terms means a theory wherein the people or an average common man's intelligence is trusted, where the government or the state should not interfere in the common day-to-day life of the people. The people's own mind, the people's own capability should be trusted. They should be set free to do their own business. They should be set free to take their own decisions. The government or the king, no one should sit above them to tell them what to do, what not to do. They should be given the right to own their property. They should be given the right to run their business in whatever way they want. They should be given the right to work in whatever manner that they want. Industrialists should be free to decide what the salary would be. All these things are liberal theory. Now, all these theories, be it liberalism, capitalism, communism, socialism, etc., all of these change over time. Depending upon what has happened in the society, depending on whether they have been successful or not, they keep on changing over time. And thus you see, as a prefix to a lot of theories, the word neo gets attached. Neoliberal theory. Neo means new form of. In the past, for example, we have discussed issues such as the neo-colonial theory. So basically neoliberal, neo-social, neo-capital theory, what it really means to say is new form of liberal theory. Let's try and understand this. Now, liberalism is not a very old theory. It came into being in the 17th century. People such as John Locke were the first people to come up with this idea that man by nature is intelligent, you should let them free. This theory gave rise to an economic system, or we are just talking about liberalism right now. Liberal theory gave rise to an economic system called capitalism, where the government would not interfere with those owning the business. If they become too rich, if they control everything, the government will not interfere. They are free to run their own businesses. It ran well in a lot of Western countries. US, UK, Germany, etc. All of these are capitalist countries. Things, however, started to change in 1920s. 1920s, after the World War I, America had emerged as this great power. A lot of economic systems around the world were dependent on the American economic system. Now came the era of the Great Depression. In the 1920s, when we had the Great Depression in the US, it led to a stock market crash of many countries and not just US, because they were all connected to the US. One of the reasons why this kind of a crash happened was that there was no government interference in the market. The government allowed the market to function whatever way that they want. Government did not interfere in any bit of the market. And when this crash was analyzed, people thought that maybe this is the reason why there was such a huge crash. Maybe we require the government to play a role. Maybe government cannot just take a step back and then let everyone do their business. Thus, the theory of liberalism started to change. In 1920s, when the government had no role to play, or in other words, it was called as negative liberty or negative form of liberalism, where the government set everyone free. That was changed after 1920s, where the state started to play a role, where the state played a role. Now, what role did the state play? State, that is the government, played a very minimal role. For example, having at least some regulation in the stock market, deciding to have certain minimum wages, that everyone should be paid a minimum slab of salary. They cannot be paid a very low salary or meager salary, etc. They imposed taxation so that taxes from the rich people can be redistributed for welfare schemes of the poor people. Now, this concept where state started to play a role was called as positive liberty, means where the state has a role to play in ensuring liberalism, where the state was not taking a back seat. That came to be known as a welfare state. That is, the government looking into the welfare of the people. This ran for about 1960s, 1970s. By the time that 1960s and 70s arrived, there was a new thought. The thought was that the government is interfering too much. The government, from becoming a welfare state, is now becoming an interfering authority. The entire idea of liberalism was to ensure that the state remains away from affairs of the society. But between 1920s and 1960s, there was a very active role played by the state. The idea was to ensure welfare of the people who might be impacted negatively by capitalism. Many people thought that it became too much interference. By 1960s, 70s, they said it became too much interference. The government was being called as a nanny state. This phrase became famous, that the government has become a nanny state, taking too much care of the people, not letting the businesses operate freely. This is when a new theory emerged, or a new demand emerged, which was called neoliberalism. So neoliberalism came up in 1960s, 70s. The idea was simple. Take the concept of the liberalism back to its original idea. Take liberty of the state back to its original idea. Ask the government to step back. Don't create a nanny state. Don't cushion hold or don't handhold everyone. Stay back and let us move back to the idea of liberalism, where people are given much more freedom. This is the phase of neoliberalism. In other words, stop interference from the state and making sure that we go back to the true ideals of liberalism. A phrase became very famous in this era that was called roll back the frontiers of state. Roll back the frontiers of state. Now, this was seen in a very big manner in two Western countries, which were the flag bearers of communism, US and UK. In US, we had Ronald Reagan as their president. In UK, we had Margaret Thatcher as the Prime Minister. Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher specifically supported this idea of rolling back the frontiers of the state. Means roll back the role of the state in the society. Give freedom to the people to achieve what they want. Give freedom to the people to run their own businesses. Not impose the will of the government on them. That started the era of neoliberalism. As I said, it was in the second half of the 20th century that the idea of the welfare state was becoming too much. And thus, it was a thought that liberalism has to return back. There were many people who became famous at this point of time with this idea. Their demand was to go back to the laissez-faire philosophy. As you know, laissez-faire means let it be. Let the person be free. Let them decide things on their own. So the idea was to go back to the idea of liberalism. Liberalism does not mean that the government would not have any role to play. Even in liberalism, the government does have a role to play, but very minimal. For example, in a truly liberal state, the government's responsibility would be to protect your property, because a right to hold a property is one of the most important rights in any liberal state. If you have paid for it, you have legally acquired your property, no one should be forcefully taking it away. Government should interfere when someone is taking over your property. Next, to ensure that we have enough protection against external threat. So if there is any external problem, if there is any external threat, the government should be prepared to handle that. And the third role of the state would be to enforce contracts. If two businesses have made a contract that I will give you X amount of money, in return you will give me this, both of them should actually fulfill their promise. If they are not doing this, the government should come in. So in a truly liberal state, these are the only three things that the government should do: protect the property, protect against an external attack, and enforce the contracts. In fact, in a liberal state, even taxation is not considered as very good. Even taxation is opposed. Why? Because taxation means you are forcing someone to give their hard-earned money so that the government can distribute it to someone else. What is taxation? The taxation idea is government will take money, more money from those who earn more, and then distribute it to people who need it more. So you are redistributing wealth. You are distributing or taking away someone's hard work and giving away to someone else. That is again something that liberals were against. So even the idea of taxation did not sit well. There were many people who supported this idea. For example, Robert Nozick, he famously wrote in Anarchy, State and Utopia that we need to go back to the idea of liberalism. If we don't, then we will become close to anarchism, because the government is now controlling every aspect of our life, including taxation, including wages, etc. As I said, there is no legitimate power beyond justice, defense and protection. Means this is the only thing that the government should do. Government should not get into the idea of a welfare state. Let the people own themselves, or let the people work for themselves. If they want to safeguard themselves, they should work for it. This is the idea of neoliberalism. Now that it's clear for you, I think you should be able to write the answer. So let's see how to write the answer. The question was again a long form question, 250 marks. Critically examine the neoliberal theory of the state. So we'll start first with a definition of neoliberalism, and we'll give a couple of thinkers who have been in favor of this. Milton Friedman, Robert Nozick, these are the people who have been in favor of this. Neoliberalism emerged in second half of 20th century, where the idea of welfare state that was given by John Maynard Keynes became too much, and the idea was to go back to the original laissez-faire philosophy that became the idea of neoliberalism. Then we'll expand on it, how neoliberal theory defends the right to acquire property, defends the right to freedom of contract. It even rejects the idea of taxation and argues taxation for welfare is just a forced transfer of money. If individuals are free from the state compulsion, they will themselves work their best. So the theory believes that people don't work their best because the state is controlling them too much. Remove all the control of the state, you will always have, automatically you will see people coming out and giving their best and contributing to the economy in as much way as possible. Neoliberalism can emphasize economic growth, efficiency of the government or society can be increased. On the other hand, it might have certain environmental cost, because when you do not have any government limit, or when you don't have any government regulation, you are giving freedom to everyone. That also means you are not stopping someone from cutting down the forest to set up their factory. Means you are not stopping someone from polluting the environment. You are not stopping someone from polluting a river. So liberalism, or true liberalism rather, comes at a grave cost to the environment and cost to the society as well. It might lead to deterioration of marginalized section of the society as well, as we have seen here. Even in capitalist countries, we still see there is a huge gap between the poor and the rich, and it can even increase further if this kind of a theory is practiced in true terms. This was the class for today. I hope the idea of neoliberalism is clear to you, and I really hope this series has been helping you conquer or at least remove the fear of PSIR from your mind. If you have other friends who have PSIR as an option, you can invite them here to take advantage of this series. There is a class at 4 p.m. every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'll see you in the next one on Friday. Do join the Telegram channel also to get the PDF of this class. Link of the channel is in the description of this video. Thank you so much. Bye bye. Jai Hind.